Welcome to Builders, the podcast for leaders who want to build great companies. I'm your host, Alex Snyder, strategic advisor to world-class builders. This podcast dives into the wild rides and personal transformations that come with pursuing big dreams and becoming a leader who builds incredible teams and companies. Each episode, I'm joined by a guest who helps deliver a fresh perspective designed to leave you feeling less lonely, more connected to innovative ideas, and inspired about growing your business your way. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite channel, leave us a 5-star review, and share your favorite episode with a friend. The podcast is sponsored by Alex Snyder Advisory. If you are a business leader or executive team ready to take your leadership and company to the next level with a high-performing team, we'd love to see how we can rocket fuel your growth. Check out the show notes to book your free Builders Business Booster call, where you'll receive a strategic leadership audit and 3 concrete focus areas to mature and grow your business. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's build. Welcome, Eugene. How are you today?
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining me today. I am super excited to dig in today's conversation. Strategy and planning and team operations is my jam, and I know it's yours. So I think it's going to be a really good discussion and a lot of practical nuggets, hopefully, that people can take away. So let's kick off with a little bit about you.
Oh, thank you so very much. My name is Eugene Terk. I currently serve as the Vice President of Business Development at Align Technologies Corp. I also serve as the General Counsel, and I know that's 2 very strange hats for the same person to wear, and maybe we'll talk more about that. Just generally, Align is a software development company based in New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been at Align for about the last 6 years, and we focus on helping small and mid-sized companies execute and document their strategic plans and implement some really good, generally accepted business habits to help companies grow and scale. I'm really all about helping business owners, CEOs, leaders, coaches like yourself navigate chaos of growth through the wonderful world of technology and software.
I love it. So you mentioned that your role is 2 quite unique roles. I would love to know a little bit about your journey before Align. What were you doing? I know you worked in law, and what did you learn along that?
So yes, I am another one of those recovering attorneys, and I spent the first 2 decades of my career as a litigator. I started my professional career in Dallas, Texas, doing intellectual property work. I was really interested in businesses that were trying to protect their assets, the intellectual property assets, trademarks, copyrights, license of those assets, and how they could monetize and protect those rights. And then after a few years of doing that, I moved back to New Orleans, where I attended Tulane Law School, and I became a litigator, really representing Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies that were sued for all sorts of different reasons. I was a defense attorney. And then towards the end of my legal career, I was doing product liability work, manufacturers of products who inevitably would get sued by users alleging that the product was in some way defective and had injured them. I would defend those corporations. And after nearly 20 years, I was a little burnt out on the practice of law, as many attorneys get. I greatly respect those who can spend their entire life practicing law. And I had a unique opportunity through a colleague, friend, to completely pivot and move into the technology space. He at the time was being hired as the CEO of Align, my friend Doug Wallner. And he presented me with this opportunity, and the timing was perfect. I thought the opportunity was one that's very interesting, and I haven't looked back. And I would say that currently probably 5 or 10% of my time is wearing that general counsel hat, and about 90 to 90% of my time is spent doing business development.
Amazing. I mean, kudos to you
Much,
for, sorry?
I was going to say, I much prefer the business development time over the general counsel legal role.
Yeah, kudos to you for making it 2 decades. The number of lawyers I know who never actually practice after going through the rigorous educational requirements to be qualified as a lawyer or litigator. It's a lot. I know a lot of lawyers who, beyond their articling, never really step foot in a courtroom or never serve, I guess, even within a corporate role under their actual legal title, because it's a very hard job.
Um, I was just going to take a quick tangent because I think some people might be curious as to how one transitions from a litigator to a VP business development.
Yeah.
And I think what I was able to convince Doug of, or maybe he saw this in me, was essentially as a litigator, my role is sales, for lack of a better word, because what I'm doing is I'm standing before a judge, I'm standing before a jury, or I'm putting argument on paper that is trying to convince someone to buy my side of the story or my client's side of the story over what the other side is selling. And when it comes to business development, obviously it's a very sales driven kind of environment and responsibility and role. And so it's actually not that shocking of a transition to go from litigation where you're essentially you have your own set of facts that you're trying to present and sell to a customer or your product or your services, versus being a salesperson, a business development, a marketer, etc. I think if you're an attorney out there watching and you're like, I could never make the transition out of law into something like software technology, I think you're selling yourself short. You can really do it because I think the skills that are there do apply in a technology sort of business development role as well.
I love it. Thank you. That's very much what I wanted to know. I love that on this podcast, we talk about a lot of things. And I think it gives people not just insight into the entrepreneurial journey or a particular skill set that someone's bringing, marketing or change management, but also career tracks and journeys and how we can morph and apply our skills in different ways, because there's so much out there to experience. And a lot of people can get stuck in whatever mindset they were presented with early on. So thank you for sharing that. I think I also love that kind of parallel of the lawyer as a salesperson. You're pitching your version, your story, and trying to get people to buy into it. So I think that's a great parallel. So in your role, how much do you interact with customers and leaders? I would think you're interacting with them a fair bit on the front end of their journey with online. Did that kind of continue?
Yeah. So in my role, I spend a lot more time working with people like you, Alex, and business coaches who are all typically entrepreneurs themselves, former business owners, former CEOs or C-suite executives who have now transitioned, much like I did in my career, into their second career, where they are now not the leaders of an organization themselves, but they are helping other leaders of many organizations grow, develop, and become better at leading their organizations. And yes, I spend a lot of time, actually, most of my days are spent doing what I call coach outreach. So I am emailing, I'm calling, I'm communicating with individuals around the globe who are them working with small and mid-sized businesses to help them implement these good business habits. Hey, I am a businesser. I'm frustrated. I'm stuck. I can't figure out how to get my business to the next level of success. And there's lots and lots of business coaches out there who have great knowledge and great experience growing a business themselves or having worked in a large organization that grew in scale. And so they provide service to those entrepreneurs and those business owners. And so those are the individuals that I spend a lot of time communicating with and helping them understand the value of a software platform that their clients can use to help make that scaling process easier, more efficient, more productive. How do they, as coaches, help their client get more work done? How do they help them execute on more of their goals, achieve more of their ability so that they can keep growing and moving towards their big, hairy, audacious goal that organizations might have for themselves 10, 20, and 30 years down the road?
I love it. And I mean, leveraging technology is such a vital topic. It's technology and automation is something that we can't ignore these days. So I definitely want to dig into Align and the tech itself. But before we do that, I want to understand a little bit about the lessons that you've learned or the challenges that you have seen leaders struggling with, or that the coaches you're working with are sharing about what their clients are struggling with.
Yeah, I think universally CEOs and business owners are out on an island or view themselves as being out on an island.
Yeah.
There's lots of people are relying upon you and looking to you for leadership and guidance and navigating the waters of where this organization is going. And I think that can be a very difficult and challenging role for anyone, particularly when you don't have anyone around you to bounce ideas off of, to discuss issues, to help you identify the blind spots that you obviously can't see yourself. And so as a business owner and a leader, I think there's wonderful organizations. There's peer groups like Vistage groups and EO forums where CEOs get together and they say, this is what I'm currently struggling with. And hearing another CEO say, oh, we struggled with it a year ago. Here's how we handled it. And that kind of information, whether it comes from a peer or whether it comes from a coach who has grown and scaled a business himself or herself in the past, and say, I've stood in your shoes. I know exactly what you're going through. Here's an idea that might work in your organization that maybe you haven't considered, or help me better understand what you've tried to do so far and what worked and what didn't work. And let's try to understand why something was successful versus why something failed. And I think most coaches and most leaders really appreciate having that sounding board that they can really get ideas and feedback and help them grow as individual leaders in their organizations that they otherwise wouldn't have and would be out there on that island or that we talked about.
Yes. I can resonate with that so much. Obviously, having been someone going through that process and now helping others go through it, I often say entrepreneurship is so much less sexy than we see than it's sold on TV, and it's often so much lonelier, right? You go from
Yeah.
having one job to having all the jobs, and then trying to help other people do their jobs, and it can be really overwhelming. And there's a huge value, to your point, of having a sounding board that has been there, that understands it. Because also, one of the things I've noticed is everyone has an opinion, right? Your family, your friends, anyone who cares to listen has an opinion, but often they haven't been there and they have no skin in the game. And so it's really easy to be a armchair quarterback if you don't have skin in the game and have a myriad of opinions if you aren't the one who has to live with them or implement them. And so I think that value that you talked about of having someone who's in it with you and has been there and can provide not just an idea, but this is actually how we did it. And this is what was great. And this is the drawback. And are you willing to accept that drawback? And if not, great, let's come up with another version, is really powerful and comforting.
The other point that I'll make is that I think a lot of CEOs and business owners appreciate having someone hold them accountable. When you're at the top of the pyramid, you're the owner, you're the leader, you're looking at your team, your organization, and you're holding them accountable for things that you expect them to do. but who in turn is holding you as the CEO, as the business owner, accountable? Sure, your employees, your team members, your organization can, if you're willing, can hold you accountable. But a lot of times, I think business owners like having an outside person hold their feet to the fire and say, okay, we had a session. We talked about what you wanted to achieve for this organization over the course of the next 90, 180 days, etc. And then actually hold them accountable and say, okay, this is what you said you were going to do. This is what you said you and your team were going to do and get done. What did you get done? Why not? Ultimately, you're the CEO. It's your responsibility. It comes with great stress, obviously, and obligations and responsibilities. And so I think having someone with the accountability coach, someone who's there to push you and make you go above and beyond what you thought you yourself could achieve. And so I think that's another really great added value and benefit of having that outside resource to not only provide guidance and counsel and experience of situations that they have been through as well, but also to say, okay, I'm going to hold you to getting this done. And if you don't, there's going to be some consequences. We're going to talk about what are the failures, what happened, how do we improve? That kind of feedback is really valuable.
Absolutely. That's such a great point, Eugene, because being the boss or the big fish in the pond, none of us are infallible to distraction or the next thing or whatever it is. And having some support on the structure and reminder and knowing that somebody, I talk a lot about servant leadership, right? Like I'm great at getting things done for others. I'm a leader. I will lead people to all kinds of things and I will set expectations. I will do all the things. But one of my biggest motivators is knowing that somebody else needs something, right? And tapping into that when you're the boss, you have to figure out how to do it. It's great when you have a big team and your team needs things, but there are parts of working on the business that technically nobody's waiting on it, or it's not crucial to anybody achieving their goal this week. It's a much bigger, sometimes more nebulous, abstract piece of work that you need that support. And I was preparing I'm actually going on to someone else's podcast later today. And they said, could you prepare something about entrepreneurship? So I put a little PDF together and I was talking about some of the myths, and this idea of nobody's going to tell me what to do. I can be an entrepreneur and I just do whatever I want. Great. Technically somewhat true, not a full myth, but you're going to be accountable to your clients, which are way more demanding than a boss and not there to help you. You are going to be accountable to your team, but also there will likely very quickly come a time where you wish somebody was there to tell you, what to do and what to prioritize. And leaders and colleagues and experts, it's going to actually sound like a dream pretty quickly. The idea of, like you said, it's like being on an island, I think is something that we don't talk about enough. And I think it's also the reason that there are some statistics that say co-founders are 30% more likely to get funded than solo founders because of the accountability, diversity of skills, all the things that come with having two or more people sharing the leadership. And so I think, again, there's a lot of value in the expertise. Like you said, of course, you want a coach that has that expertise, but also just the accountability that comes with human interaction. Yeah. So what would you say this is not a presentation, I'm not expecting a list of 1 to 10, but what are the crucial elements or habits that need to be in place across an organization for them to reach that next level, to grow sustainably and profitably?
What we have seen time and time again is, generally speaking, most organizations struggle in a few areas. I think if you were to poll most companies and most employees, they would say communication could be drastically improved in this organization. Visibility into sort of what is the goal, what is the vision for where this business is going is another area of improvement that employees are always seeking. And I think, again, accountability, making sure that everyone knows what is being asked of them in their role and how will they be judged, or how will they be ranked or reviewed at the end of a certain period of time as to whether or not they hit their goals or their target. Align, if I give you just a quick backstory on how
Yeah.
Align, our software tool, was even, it was essentially created by a serial entrepreneur who was working with a business coach. And at that time, they were trying to implement the Rockefeller habits, which comes from Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, the book by Vern Harnish, which became Scaling Up. And the serial entrepreneur had a technology business, a software company, and he had developers in different parts of the world. And as part of the work that he was doing with that business coach, they were trying to implement some good business habits. They were trying to implement having regular huddles, and they were trying to create KPIs, key performance indicators, and getting critical numbers tracked in the business. And so those remote teams at that time were literally filling out a piece of paper and faxing it back to home office in the United States on a
Mm.
daily or a weekly basis.
Oof.
And the entrepreneur said, there's going to be a better way for me to know and monitor and be updated on how well remote teams are doing. Because it was a technology business, he had developers. So that's how Align was originally built. It was built as a side tool to help this entrepreneur grow and scale his primary business, which ultimately he did. And what happened is that business coach liked what was built so much, who said, hey, can I go take this and introduce it to all of my other coaching clients? Because I'm introducing those same habits, those same good practices in all of these organizations, and they could benefit from a tool like this. And it's about creating a dashboard of all of your most important targets and metrics. So everyone sees what are the goals that we're trying to hit this quarter as an organization. How do I get visibility into all of the employees? What are the key things we're trying to achieve, our priorities, our objectives? And then how do we communicate better within the organization? Those are the critical elements that really any tool should try to implement as they grow and scale.
Yeah, absolutely. What I know for myself, I talk about annual planning, quarterly planning. I tend to talk about meeting cadence, communication cadence. I love the dashboards and visibility and Align, the fact that at a touch of a button, it's there and everyone can see it and it's updated. As you said, there's no collecting of paper. It's just people make updates directly and it flows together and then you talk about it at the next meeting, right? What's your perspective on some maybe leading, I don't like best practice, but like leading practice around communication, cadence, meetings? Obviously, I think meetings are a little bit of a controversial topic these days. Some people are trying to eradicate them. Others think that you need to have more of them. They just need to be run better.
Look, I can give you my experience from my own professional career. Law firms generally don't have meetings. Generally lawyers come into the office and we just start working on our cases. Occasionally you might have a meeting about that particular case, but it isn't at a regular rhythm or cadence. So when I left the legal world and came into the world of scaling up and Align and working in a technology company that has regular meeting rhythms, that was very new and unusual to me. And so I immediately saw the benefit of that. So for example, at Align, we have a daily huddle every single day at 11:47 a.m. The habit, there's rhyme and reason to all the madness, because we do it at 11:47 is an odd time. So you tend to remember it that, hey, 11:47, not 11:30, and you show up at 11:35, 11:47, and everyone shows up at 11:47. Our goal is to keep that daily huddle less than 15 minutes every single day. We shouldn't be meeting for more than 15 minutes on a daily basis. And besides, at 11:47, everyone is antsy to go to lunch.
Yeah.
So we're going to get in, have a very productive meeting. We're going to exchange the most critical information we need to exchange with the rest of our team. And then we're going to go have lunch. And that's like a natural deadline for the meeting. That's what keeps it productive.
Love it.
The other thing that we try to instill in all of our employees and certainly all of our customers is the general habit of spending 5 minutes before your huddle, whether it be a daily huddle, a weekly huddle, a 2-week one-on-one employee performance review. 5 minutes doing some free thought about what it is that you need to actually share with the rest of your team and document that somewhere, whether you document it in a line or document it in a OneNote, whatever. Somewhere you literally make a bullet point list of, hey, these are the 3 or 4 most important things that I need to share with my team in terms of what I'm working on, what am I struggling with, what is some good news that I want to share with the rest of my team. That, just those 5 minutes is what's going to make the meeting very productive, very efficient, and very informative. Because the worst thing, we've all been in meetings where it's like, hey, Alex, why don't you give us your update? And Alex starts fumbling and bumbling through her brain, trying to remember what it is that Alex wanted to share with the rest of my team. And so that gets very frustrating. And that just little bit of free work can lead to much more productive, much more efficient meetings as a whole. And I will say, I think law firms should have more meetings or more huddles on a daily basis. I think the value of the information that gets exchanged in any organization, like I said, every organization is probably going to complain that they wish they had more communication, more information about what's going on from top down. And so this is a very easy, simple way to increase the flow of information, give everyone an opportunity to speak up when they want to speak up, and really share what's going on in their world that might have a significant impact on someone else in the organization.
Yeah.
If you've got sales or marketing that all of a sudden at a huddle says, hey, we're going to have 1,000 more leads this quarter than we did last quarter. Sales needs to know that because they're going to need to prepare for all those leads and what that's going to mean to them. So there's real implication based on what you share with the rest of the team that's going on that really can drive what gets done and how it gets done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think to your point, the quality and structure of the meetings is vital and equally important as the quantity. And I remember I implemented a rule, which sounds when you say it so obvious, but it was you cannot send a meeting invite without an agenda for anything more than for anything more than 2 people. And honestly, I said you have the right to reject a meeting, even if it's the one-on-one that doesn't have some agenda. And I just said, that's the rule because I want the meeting to happen, but it will be better. You will get more out of it. And it will probably be about 60% of the time if there's an agenda. And if people have those 5 minutes before, and I know there's a lot of organizations that have taken that in different ways. I believe it was Amazon at one point. They said no one is reading briefs beforehand. It's just not the reality that everyone comes in prepared. And so now the preparation is 1 to 2 pages max. It gets handed out or distributed. And there is a 5 minutes of silence at the beginning of the meeting where everybody reads it so that everybody gets up to speed. And then we start. And that might sound crazy, but think about the quality of the meeting when everyone's paying attention and everyone has the same information. Rather than the conversation starts, but half of us are reading it on our side screen and trying to catch up.
I think another really valuable benefit of doing that pre-documentation somewhere, whether it's in a line or something else, is particularly if it's a tool that everyone who is part of that meeting has access to. Generally what happens is there's going to be occasion where someone doesn't make it to the meeting. You have a daily, let's say you're a sales team, you have a daily stand up every single day at 11:47, but for some reason, Joe isn't going to make it to the sales meeting next Thursday. If Joe goes into a line or whatever tool they're using and enters the information that he would just as if he was going to be at that meeting, the rest of the team can still go and read his update and know, oh, the reason Joe isn't here today is because he's out trying to close a huge deal with Me Corp, for example. All right. That's really valuable. They know exactly why Joe isn't there and what he's doing, even though he wasn't there to present his own update.
Mm.
And more importantly, Joe can go into that same tool and read what the rest of the team updated everyone about during that meeting. So even though he wasn't there to hear what everyone else said, he knows exactly what the rest of the sales team is working on and struggling with and sharing good news as if he had been there physically during that meeting on that particular. So there's real benefit both by doing it.
Yeah. I love that. And I think there was something else you hit on that was really important. You talked about marketing can let sales know X. And while, yes, documentation and processes, I think are really important to, for information to flow and be documented and shared and tracked, I think that there is a value in meeting twofold to that. One is you're never going to have a box for everything, right? And the conversation is a place where the information gets shared, but also discussed, and the implications and how to handle things get talked about in a way that if you were saying, okay, every day just fill this in, but don't come and sit together, I think it would be a lot of nuance and ability to either mitigate or ideate gets lost. And I think the other thing is there's a level of appreciation that is twofold. One, for how each department works, what their work is, how you connect into their work. I think there's an appreciation that happens in a lot more teamwork, as opposed to sometimes departments can be battling a little bit if their objectives are not maybe fully aligned. It can be a bit of a battle. But the other thing is, while I have come up with a lot of creative ways to set up kudos and achievement and have that be done in a formal way, there is just an element also to the good vibe of being able to share good news in the meeting and have your colleague recognize that. And I think that there's a culture element to meeting that is sometimes overlooked. And I think particularly with the rise of remote work, the way you run your meeting is what builds your culture when you don't have a physical office. So I think that's another under the radar element that sometimes people aren't thinking about when they're saying, let's say we have a line, write your notes, check your boxes, put your KPIs in. Don't sit down and have a conversation regularly. I think that there is an element that can be missed that is sometimes harder to quantify.
Yeah, certainly. Just as an example, at Align, we have this daily huddle at 11:47. But on Fridays, as part of that daily huddle, what we have is a shout outs section where basically anyone can shout out another team member for something that they should be rewarded or celebrated about for having done over the past week. So that's a culture tool. It's very simple. It's very efficient in terms of building team camaraderie, helping celebrate the achievements, the good news that you want everyone to know about. Hey, I want to thank Robert. He really helped me with this particular issue, and I want to give him a shout out. And so that's just a simple element of that daily huddle that can really elevate that meeting over, oh God, it's just another meeting I have to go to.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that is where the simple things add up and they become a huge part of the culture. At one point, we implemented a kudos channel in Slack, and it was a channel specific to shout out somebody who made a difference in your day, your project, who helped you out, go beyond your project team. Like we had lots of, we had a great culture. We're really fortunate. That was one of the best things about a couple of the organizations they built with one of my business partners. And people were just constantly looking for ways to help each other. And whether it was our 3D design and modeler who was always down at the shipping dock helping out when we would have huge machines and stuff that was not his job, but he was always the guy who was like, oh, is something coming in, Gene, next pair of hands? Yes, we always did, right? We're small. We didn't have a dedicated team running our shipping deck. It was a big door on a busy street in Toronto. We were having huge things delivered into elevator that reminded you of every scary movie you've ever seen, right? It was an experience. And he'd been there the longest. And so he knew how to work everything. And he was always offering. And we had other people who were always offering other things. So we really wanted to make sure that people were shouting each other out and just recognizing that you were going above and beyond. There's a huge psychological value to recognizing that people are helping you as well as recognizing them for helping you.
Yeah, it helps build team morale.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked a bit about the foundational principles of Align, a lot of the great habits or components that are really important. I'm wondering if is there anything in terms of the way that Align supports these habits or an example of kind of what you're seeing clients who have implemented Align? What is different from what they were experiencing?
Well, I think primarily it helps organizations get, my friend, more. I think when you at the start of the quarter, there's a couple of things I'll mention. When you start a quarter with a strategic plan, a 90-day action plan that identifies these are the 2 or 3, maybe 4 most important things that we as an organization need to get done. These are our quarterly priorities. And we identify these things because we believe that if we can do these 4 things, it's going to have the most positive, significant impact on the future success and growth of this business. These are our priorities. These are the most important things we need to get done. What that does is, first of all, it paints the big picture for every employee. Everyone understands what is it that we really want to get done this quarter. And we talked earlier about working in the business. Now we're talking about working on the business.
Yeah.
This isn't just selling goods and services. This is what else do we need to do in order to sell more goods, more services in a new market from different channels, new products, etc. What are we going to do to grow the game? So we're painting that big picture. Secondly, we're going to identify what the various individual contributions of employees are to that higher level strategic goal and objective. So if we create a priority, I'm going to ask sales, what are you going to do to help us achieve this goal? Marketing, what's your contribution? And now we've painted the big picture and everyone understands and visualizes how the work that they are being asked to do and to contribute is associated with that higher level strategic goal and objective. What's my role? What's my part in helping the organization do this? Well, I think that's really critical. And I think it just then, at the end of the quarter, it gives you the ability to look back and say, okay, what did we achieve? And we're going to monitor, we're going to measure, we're going to track this stuff. And then I'm going to be able to look back and say, what did we achieve? Meaning, what did we hit at 90% or 100% completion versus where did we fall short? And with regards to where we fell short, we can then do a postmortem and say, why? Yeah. What can we learn from that, for lack of a failure, we can use to either create better priorities in future quarters or execute on our priorities better or efficiently next quarter as well. And I think the final point I'll make is that particularly for CEOs and senior leadership teams, setting out that 90-day action plan helps you not get distracted. Because I think oftentimes business owners, any team leader, there's always shiny object syndrome where some opportunity is going to come up during the quarter where we're going to be like, hold on, let's redirect all of our energy and resources on this new opportunity, right?
Yeah.
The detriment of the strategic plan that we set out at the beginning of the quarter. That may be the correct move, but at least you can do the analysis of saying, is this new opportunity better, more important? Is it going to get us to our goal faster than what we originally said were the 2 or 3 priorities that were most critical? Is this something that we pursue because we're not going to pursue one of the other things that we said at the beginning of the quarter? And if it's not that great, or if it doesn't outweigh the things you've already set in stone, great. Keep on track, keep focused on the things that you wanted to get done. If it is greater, okay, we can pivot or we can say, we're going to do this. We're no longer going to pursue that particular priority, and everybody will understand why.
Yes, you've hit on so many good things that I want to make sure anyone who's listening is taking away, right? The idea of 90-day plan, limited list of priorities. that are going to meaningfully change the future of the business. These are the things that don't pay off tomorrow, but in 5 years or even a year, if you haven't done them, it will make a huge difference of the trajectory of the business. That is what planning, that is what leadership needs to be spending time doing, which you cannot do if you spend 12 hours a day inside the business operating it. And the priorities are so important. Entrepreneurs, I mean, shiny object syndrome is entrepreneurs' Achilles heel. And it's hard because it's part of what makes you amazing and excited and full of ideas. But it's so easy to run after the next exciting thing because often what we are doing in those priorities is not sexy in the moment. It's not exciting. It requires diligence and follow through. So that new idea that now is as exciting as this was 2 months ago, you have to assess it. You have to assess, is it urgent? Is it going to deliver something we need sooner? Should it happen before the thing we're doing? Or actually, does it not matter? And it's better to get something done because that's also really important to the team that things do get finished and people feel that they can move forward. Or is it going to be even better if you do it after you finish this because it's going to amplify the effect? There's so many questions, and having something that is, to your point, set in stone, but not unchangeable, but a reference point that is, we agreed to this and this is why, and this is how we're working on it, is so valuable. And I hate to say it, but our attention spans are shorter and technology, for the most part, is not helping. So I think it's great if in whatever way you want to do it, obviously I think Align is fantastic, you have something that is documented what you are doing, why you are doing it, and can give you that sense check. And I just wanted to, I'm repeating a lot of what you said, but just making sure that people are really hearing this. If you are running a business, this is your job and this is what you need to be doing in whatever way works for you and your team. And again, to your point, having that information available to everyone so that it is fully understood is critical, but also so that each person, there is a lot of evidence about the more you understand how what you do impacts others, impacts the organization, ties in, that is the key to intrinsic motivation, right? You can tell someone what to do and you pay them to do a job, but if you want someone to really go above and beyond, they need to have a component of the purpose that you have that drives you.
I will add on one point that you made, and I've heard Vern speak many times, and something he often says is most business owners, most CEOs, most founders, if they are lucky, are spending 20% of their time on strategy and 80% of their time on operational and tactical things in the business, in the weeds, in the minutia, in the day-to-day stuff. And the goal is that by doing the hard work of strategic planning and creating that visual roadmap and assigning things and delegating things to others in the organization, that percentage gets flipped for the business owner.
Yeah.
So that they are only spending 20% of their time on the operational and tactical things and 80% of their time on the strategy and the big picture. What's the growth plan? How are we going to get from 5 million to 10 million revenue? That is what the CEO is supposed to be thinking about, ideating, having conversations and working with whatever they believe is going to get them there, while the 80% of the in the weed, in the business minutia of selling widgets is handled by others in the organization. I know not everybody is at that level, but that's the goal. The goal is to elevate yourself as a leader out of the operational and tactical and be able to focus on the strategic. So instead of working 4 days a week for operations and 1 day a week on strategy, if you're lucky, to 4 days on strategy and 1 day on operation.
I love that you said that. I am a huge proponent of that strategic to tactical ratio as you move up through the organization. When you're a really junior person, you're doing almost all tactical work, right? And maybe get involved in some strategic conversation, but it's 90% tactical, 10% strategic. And as you move through the organization, that should invert. And that highest level should be 80 or 90% strategic. And the way you get there is actually through planning and having these strategic initiatives, because it's how you identify the role that you need to take those things off your plate, the processes that allow things to run without you, the governance, all the things. So it's this like chicken egg scenario where you need this to create the time and space to have more time for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've covered quite a lot of ground. I'm wondering, as we wrap up, how big does an organization need to be for something like Align to benefit them? If someone's sitting out there and thinking, this sounds great, but we're only 8 people. Is this really for us?
You're big enough. So what we like to say is if you have more than 5 employees, and the reason we say that is because as a business owner, if you have 5 employees or less, it is fairly easy to know what everyone is working on and making sure that everyone is working on the right things. If you're a growing enterprise and you've gone from 5 employees to 15 employees over the last 12, 24 months, or maybe that's your goal for the next 12 or 24 months. We want to go from 5 to 15, or we want to go from 25 employees to 50 employees, or we want to go from 5 million to 10 million in revenue. That type of growth, particularly if you're trying to do it in a short period of time, exponential growth, naturally comes with a certain level of chaos. You're growing quickly. All of a sudden, your processes that worked when you had 5 employees don't work when you have 15 employees. It's the old adage that what got you here isn't what's going to get you there.
Yeah.
And so you may have a very successful business and you've gotten there and using, I don't know, Excel spreadsheets or paper and a whiteboard, whatever, or you've never even done goal planning or strategic planning before. You just sold widgets and professional services, whatever. But all of a sudden you've reached a level and now you want to get to the next level and you're starting to experience some frustration because you're, how do I remove myself from the 80% operational and tactical side? How do I ensure that my team that is growing is working on the right things? How do I get visibility into what they're doing and how well they are performing and moving those priorities forward? That's the perfect time to start implementing a tool, whether Align or anything else, to really make this a more efficient growth process. Because growth, while very exciting, also tends to break things in an organization. And so what you want to do is you want to start implement really good business habits earlier rather than later to hopefully calm some of that chaos that comes from the exponential growth you're experiencing.
I love that. If you are trying to mature your organization, it's navigating a minefield. It's organized chaos. So I think that is an amazing piece of advice. We have covered a lot. Is there one piece of advice for someone who is just on their entrepreneurial journey? You've been through different roles. You've now had the opportunity to watch a lot of organizations grow and meet with a lot of advisors. Is there any kind of piece of advice for those who are either contemplating or already on their journey that you would want to share?
I think it goes back to that on an island premise, is that understanding that you are not alone. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is very stressful. And it comes with a lot of responsibility because if you have employees, they have families, part of the community, there's a lot of stressors that come with that type of responsibility. And so I think it's just realizing and understanding that there are resources, whether it be a business coach, whether it be a peer group, whether it just be your local chamber of commerce, whether it just be some other organization in your local community where you can periodically meet with other business leaders, with other CEOs, so that you can ask questions, learn from those who have already gone past whatever stage of your entrepreneurial journey you're currently on or stuck in, and learn from them. Always be learning. Obviously, there's tons of books that you could be reading, whether it be about just how to be a better leader, how to manage better, how to create more organization within your company or business, how to implement business habits and business methodologies, like scaling up. I mean, there's a wealth of information that is out there. You have to be willing to, I think, what your organization cannot grow unless the people in the organization grow at the same rate. And that includes you as a business owner. So if you want to 2x your business, you've got to 2x yourself. You've got to learn new skills. You got to learn new ways of dealing with people and being a leader. And so that's the lesson for any business owner is you've got to continuously evolve as an individual, because that's going to help your business evolve as well.
I love it. I always say entrepreneurship will bring up all your shit. I think the nice version of that is entrepreneurship is the personal development course you never asked for. It is to your point, you must grow your skill sets and your understanding and your thinking, but also you have to start to understand yourself and have self-awareness to see your gaps, to understand what you need to work on, to be an emotionally regulated adult, which we all love to think we are at all times, but most of it hard. And the stress of a growing team or growing business, an unforeseen problem is massive when you are the leader and you're responsible for everything. So I love that point and that bit of advice. I love to wrap things up with a few rapid fire questions. You can pass on any of these. They're just a fun opportunity for people to get to know you beyond topic of our conversation. So are you ready?
Sure. I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
Don't be nervous. Just four. What is an experience that changed your life?
An experience that changed. Okay. I know this is rapid fire, but just backstory. So I was born in the Soviet Union. My parents immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old. So that experience, the bravery, the courage that my parents had to leave the Soviet Union, come to the United States without a job, without knowing anybody, and bringing my 15-year-old brother and my 6-year-old self, that is an experience that absolutely changed my life.
Of course. Wow.
So I give a lot of thanks to my parents for that.
Amazing. What does strategy mean to you?
Strategy to me means having a set, it's almost like if I am at point A and I want to get to point B, strategy is what's going to help me get along the path from A to B. And without strategy, I could get lost, I could get redirected, I could get turned around. Strategy is what keeps me going in the right direction to get from point A to point B.
Amazing. What is a book that has changed your perspective on something?
The Power of Moments by the Heath brothers. And Dan Heath. It's a book that's all about how do we elevate the typically mundane, ordinary experiences, whether it be for a customer, whether it be for a family member, a friend. How do we just create these incredibly powerful moments in the business world that are going to create brand loyalty, that are going to create ambassadors who absolutely will always come back to you for goods and services? How are you going to elevate the mundane so that people remember you because of something you did that was very unexpected? It's a really wonderful read, and it's the best book I've read in a while.
I love it. Last question. If you could go to any concert tomorrow, touring or not, dead or alive, what would it be?
Fish at the Sphere in Las Vegas, April 20th, 2024.
Oh, so you are going.
I'm sadly not. Look, I'm admittedly a huge Fish fan. I've been seeing Fish for 30 years, and April 20th, they will be playing at the new Sphere in Las Vegas. And that date is literally the 30th anniversary of my very first this show when I was in college. And unfortunately, I don't yet have a ticket. If anybody who's out there watching this,
anyone's listening
for me,
Look,
that'd be
Eugene,
great. Yeah, either that or look, right now I'm currently a failure of a father because Taylor Swift is coming to New Orleans and I have been unable to get tickets for my 12-year-old daughter.
All right. We're putting the word out. Taylor Swift in New Orleans,
So
and Fish April as well here in Las Vegas. Anybody who has a connection, we're gonna. My next question is, how do people connect with you if they want to continue this conversation or help you get those tickets?
You can certainly find me on LinkedIn, Eugene Terk at Terk. If you want to, you can always email me. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. It's Terk, my first initial last name, at align, ALIGN, today.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Eugene. This has been a great conversation. So many practical pieces that people can take away. And obviously, I am biased because this is what I love to talk about, but it has been so much fun. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Alex, thank you for the invitation. And I will give a quick preview because Alex has agreed to be a webinar presenter for Align in March. So hopefully everybody will be on the lookout for that so that Alex can share some of her wisdom and knowledge with in our audience as well.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that as well. Thank you to everyone who joined us, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Our goal is to create connections and inspire conversations about building great companies. So please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast with your network. Sharing is caring. If you're a business leader or executive team ready to take your leadership and company to the next level with high-performing teams, we'd love to see how we can rocket fuel your growth. Check out the show notes to book your free Builders Business Booster call, where you'll receive a strategic leadership assessment and 3 concrete focus areas to mature and grow your business. You'll also find the link to join the Builders Club to stay up to date on upcoming events, get valuable tools and insights, as well as be the first to receive exciting announcements straight to your inbox. No spam, I promise. You'll also find my website, alexsnyder.com, and all the places to peep my creds, hear what clients have to say, and see if I went to the gym today. And one final note, this podcast is not intended to be legal, tax, or other professional advice. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you on the flip side.